What is up, everybody? This is Patrick, and welcome back to the channel. Now, I was planning on making another video today. About the whole Women's Evolution pay-per-view thing, but I'm pushing that back to Saturday because I have a video for you guys that I personally just thought about in my head while, I was just at home, and the fact is that Thursday I didn't upload. I thought about it all Thursday. What kind of videos I could plan. So, the Women's Evolution is going to be pushed to Saturday, and today I am going to be going over my personal favorite WWE games of all time. Let's just think about it for a second, guys. Let's think about this for a second. Ever since 2K has taken over the WWE games, excuse me, ever since 2K has taken over the WWE games, has there really been any truly great games since 2K took over? We've had 2K14, 2K15, 2K16, 2K17, and 2K18. And now we're getting 2K19. Hopefully 2K19 is great, but at the same time, the past 2K games haven't really been that great. 2K14 was probably the only somewhat good 2K game, because you had the Undertaker's defeat the streak, you had the 30 years of WrestleMania, and you had universe mode, and you had a lot of cool stuff. I'd say 2K14 was probably the only decent 2K game. 2K15 was rushed. You could tell there was no sources behind it. It was just rushed. There was way too many. If you've played 2K15 and you've completed everything, like you've completed the entire game, you've unlocked every character, you would know that there's way too many Sheamus characters. There's way too many Alberto Del Rio characters. Way too many Randy Orton characters. Hulk Hogan's, you'll get what I mean. Like, it was so rushed that they barely had any time. It just felt rushed. So yeah, 2K16. 2K16, or was it 2K15? It was 2K15 that introduced my career, but 2K16, 2K16 was not really the best, but, it stood out, though. 2K17, it was fine, but still bad. And 2K18, we know, is bad. And, it's just an upgraded, it's just 2K17 with better graphics. That's pretty much it. 2K19. If 2K19 is going to be a successful game, they need to bring back a lot of things. Maybe eventually in the future I will make a video about things that I would want in WWE 2K19. But anyway, enough about the 2K games. Let's get on with my personal favorite WWE games of all time. This is just in no specific order. I'm just going to be talking about the WWE games that I personally have played and, that I found really enjoyable to play, that I've really enjoyed playing a lot. First off, we're going to be talking about Smackdown versus Raw. The very first Smackdown versus Raw. Now, THQ, these were the people that were making all the WWE games. And they were good at it. They were good at creating WWE games. And it's such a shame that 2K can't, replicate what THQ did with these games. SmackDown vs. Raw was good in a way, because you had a season mode. and you can, you know, battle for any championship you so wish. There was only two championship options, which were, you know, you had two championship options, which was the Intercontinental and World Heavyweight. And the thing that I liked about that is that you had to be at a certain level to get to these championships. But you can easily win a Royal Rumble to become World Heavyweight Champion because you know, can win the thing and, you know, be in the main event. But the thing that I liked about it so much is that I would always create a character. I would always create a character of myself, because that's what I do in every game. I would always create a character, and I would always be that created superstar through these story modes, because it was good, because like you can win matches and you would get experience points. You know, you would have feuds and stories to go through, and you know, you could get managers and all that stuff, and you could just gain a lot of XP and build your character's points up. And I would do that, very often. I'd create more people. I would, you know, share some XP around with some of the other custom characters I made. You know, it was just always a lot of fun. It was always a lot of fun. But the annoying thing about 2K, what am I saying? There's only one problem with this game, and I'm not sure if it's not a big deal because these were old games. If you were a face or if you were a heel, the crowd would always cheer. They would always have that sound effect of the crowd cheering you. It was the same thing with Shut Your Mouth, and it was the same thing with Here Comes the Pain. I don't know why, but they never added in the vocals of the crowd booing the bad guy. They started doing that with Smackdown vs. Raw 2006. But yeah, those early games, they didn't really have, you know, cheering and booing involved. But that was one of the bad things. It's not really too big. And the other bad thing is, well, I wouldn't call it a bad thing. It was more of a bad thing for me when I was younger. But it's more of a cool idea, you know, just to prevent you from, you know, being lazy. Like, you know, you've always got the skip option. You know, you've always got the simulate option. Like, if you're too lazy just to play a match, and if you choose skip, it will warn you. It will tell you if you skip, you will lose this match. So it's basically like, oh, you want to skip this match? Well, you will lose this match if you don't play. So it's pretty much forcing you to play. It's forcing you to play, so that way you could get some experience points. And the other thing I find hilarious is that, like, on the outside, on the main menu, you could just change the match. You know, you could change, you know, the match rules. This is why I liked this season mode better, because you could just change the match lineup, because, you know, you could just turn DQs off, and you can go into season mode, and you could play every match, and every match would be a no disqualification match. Seriously, that was probably the fastest way that I could ever think of grinding. Just turn the DQ option off, just constantly smack your opponent with a chair and weapons, and just do your finishing move, and that's it. I always found that the funniest way to grind for points. I don't know if people knew that, but at the same time, though, I found it very, and I thought it was very cool. Yeah, the season mode, you know, it is what it is. You know, I enjoyed it. Next game I'm going to be talking about is the Smackdown vs. Raw 2006 and 7, because these two are together. I wanted to talk about these two at the same time. These two games are awesome for one reason, because these games were just so good, and they had season mode, which was also very good, and also they had the one thing that everybody wants back in the 2K games: GM mode. GM mode is so fun. You would never get sick of it. That is the one thing that is so good about those games. GM mode is so great. You could have anybody you want on your brand. And I wish Universe mode is like that. I want universe mode like that. You can have universe mode like GM mode. Instead of just, having GM mode as its own mode, you could just turn universe mode into GM mode. Instead of just starting universe mode and, you got all the people on the roster right away, why don't they give you an option to create your own roster? That would be awesome if universe mode could do that. Like, they could create you could create your own roster. Like, when you start, you can set up Raw, Smackdown, NXT, 205 Live, and that other stuff. And then you could just choose who you want on your brand. That's just great. That's just great, in my opinion. Very, very great. And those are the things that 2K can easily fix, but they're just being lazy about it. Why can't 2K go back and look at the history that THQ has done with these games, and they could realize how much better they could make the 2K games, and also implement their own ideas? Like I said, have universe mode. Like, you can have universe mode as its own mode, like it is, and you can have an option to use current rosters or design your own. How cool would that be? You just go into universe mode and you see a second option that the second option tells you can customize the brand any way you want. You would be having a time of your life doing that. Honestly, I wish 2K would do stuff like this. That's why I wish 2K would implement it's just so great. It's just so great, and I wish the WWE Games would follow through it. And it's stupid how they just don't capitalize on what's in front, on what's around them. They just, do the matches. They just do what they want to do. They just copy and paste everything. And I want them to do more than just copy and paste. So yeah, those are one of the many reasons why, the 2007 and 2006 games of SmackDown vs. Raw were awesome. Next, I'm going to be talking about SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. This is another great game, in my opinion. I really loved this game. I loved this game because it was just so good, and it had 24/7 mode. You could, the cool thing about 24/7 mode is that they gave you an option. Do you want to do season mode, or do you want to do general manager mode? That was the great thing about it. It gave you two options of what you want to do on your 24 mode. Do you want to have a 24-hour mode of you just being a GM making matches, coming up with cool storylines, or do you want to be a 24/7 maniac, just playing as somebody, and and just going through season mode? Sure, some people go through season mode because GM mode can get boring at times, but it's just a fun thing to do. But if there's one thing about the general manager mode that I want to talk about, not the general manager mode, I'm saying, the season mode on WWE 2008 SmackDown vs. Raw. You only have two options. You can. The thing that I don't like about certain games in season modes is that they kind of force you to go after, the main championship, the big title, the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championships. I feel like, that is kind of lazy. Like, I know it's every superstar's goal to be, the number one champion. But don't you think if you want to become a legend, because that's the whole basics of the game, Because the whole basics of that 24/7 mode. Your basic is to become a legend of the business. You going through the same storylines, winning matches, isn't going to make you a legend. And you constantly going after the WWE Championship doesn't make you a legend. You winning every single championship makes you a legend. And you know, like, I know these games, I know they're games, but if they really wanted to follow through with the idea of you becoming a legend, like the game's coding should change the storylines every year. After you finish a 1 year cycle, then you get a new storyline. You get a new obstacle. You know, that's what I want these games to do. But the problem with the games back in the day, they would always portray the same storylines over and over again. And by then you would know what's going to happen. So yeah, those are the main problems with those games. That they really should have, given you an option, or maybe even just, changed up the storylines a bit if you want to become a legend, like in the 2008 game tells you to. Next game I want to talk about is the Shut Your Mouth and Here Comes the Pain. I could have spoken about these earlier, but I didn't want to. I'm going to speak about them now because, it makes sense for me to talk about them now. These games, they're great. I like the idea that they portrayed. Like they gave you a draft option. Like the great thing about Shut Your Mouth is that no matter who you play as, it's all part of the draft. But the one thing, I'm not sure if many people found this as a bad thing. I kind of found it as a bad thing, but it's probably for more brand supremacy. Like, halfway through the story, I believe it's like up to about SummerSlam, I'm not 100% sure. Like, halfway through the game, and onwards, you're on both SmackDown and Raw. Even if you're not the undisputed champion. Now, some people can say, oh, well, it's for brand supremacy. You're trying to find out who's the better brand. Who's trying to prove who's the better brand. If you want that to be applicated into the game, I'd say you could do that every Survivor Series. Like, you could do that for every Survivor Series. Whether if you're the champion or whether if you're not the champion. And the cool thing about SmackDown Shut Your Mouth is that you can chase any title you want. As long as you're worthy, as long as you're worthy, you could chase any title you want, which is good. Which is what I liked about those games. I wish the SmackDown vs. Raw games did that. 6 and 7. And 8. I wish they did that, but you had to be the main champion instead. But yeah, the thing about those games, the thing about Shut Your Mouth is that it's constant repeating. I think the stories change at times, but I don't really go on for very long. I normally finish up to when I beat Hulk Hogan, and then I kind of stop there because I kind of don't want to keep going. Like, I know the stories probably would continue to get interesting, but I never continued after I beat Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. Here Comes the Pain. Like I said, I mentioned that game as well. Here Comes the Pain. That's kind of one game I don't normally finish. Because, I don't know why, I just found the season mode kind of boring in a way. Because they don't really implement you in storylines. Sometimes they just put you in random matches. And again, it forces you to play. Just like Shut Your Mouth. Shut Your Mouth forces you to play as well, which is something I forgot to mention. The skip option was a part of those games as well, but you can't access the skip. You can't access the skip option unless you finish the game, unless you go through a whole story mode of it for the first time in your first playthrough. And I normally don't get that far. I don't normally get very far. Sometimes I stop. Because sometimes I get bored of just constantly playing and getting bored and not wanting to do the matches. So yeah, So yeah, I believe the furthest I ever got was the Royal Rumble, where I won the Royal Rumble. I think that was the farthest I ever got playing that game. I never really completed it, so it was a great game. I'm not saying it was a bad game because I couldn't finish the story mode. It's just that I was lazy. Since back then I was lazy. I just didn't really want to go through the storyline. I just wanted to progress the story. I just wanted to progress through the year. I didn't care if I lost matches or not, even though I should be. But either way, the next games I want to talk about is Smackdown versus Raw. No, WWE 12. That's what I was going to talk about next. WWE 12. In my opinion, this is my opinion. In my opinion, is the best WWE game. It's just my opinion. It's the best. Sure, it might be outdone by some people. Might think the 2K games are better. Sure, some people might think WWE 13 is better, and I'll include WWE 13 in this story because they're both similar in a way. But the thing that I love about WWE 12 is that they had Road to WrestleMania, and they had great storylines that kept you hooked to keep playing. That's the thing with WWE 12. The storylines hooked me in, and it kept me playing. The story modes were Sheamus, the villain, Sheamus, villain story, where you're playing as Sheamus, and you're building your own League of Nations, which is called United Kingdom. I kind of find that ironic. I find that ironic that because who was in the group? In the group was Sheamus, William Regal, Drew McIntyre, and Wade Barrett. I find that pretty funny that WWE 12 foreshadowed League of Nations. And Sheamus was the leader, just like in the game. And the whole story of this United Kingdom League of Nations thing is that Sheamus and everybody in the group win every single championship in WWE. Sheamus wins the United States Championship. He gets rid of the United States Championship for the European Championship. He wins the World Heavyweight Championship. You know, Drew McIntyre wins the Tag Team and Intercontinental Championships. He wins the Tag Team titles with William Regal. And Wade Barrett wins the WWE Championship. Something that this guy should have done in real life. Something that this guy should have done in real life. He should have became WWE Champion in real life. Or World Heavyweight Champion. A video game in a story, in a Road to WrestleMania story, made Wade Barrett a WWE Champion. Sink that in. A video game. I find it funny. I find it funny that a video game made him the WWE Champion. Oh, need to stretch a bit. So, and then you had the next storyline, which was Triple H. When Sheamus wins every championship, because that's what happens at WrestleMania, like, the whole League of Nations thing implodes, and they all battle it out for every single title at WrestleMania. Sheamus wins all the titles, and then Triple H wins the Royal Rumble. He ends up winning the Royal Rumble, and you play as Triple H to beat Sheamus. And I don't know what happens to Sheamus after all that. I believe he ended up losing every single championship, because what's the point in having one guy hold every title? So he probably would have ended up losing them all after that. And then Triple H's story, I don't know what was, I like the story about that is that Triple H, won the WWE Championship, and it was his goal to break Ric Flair's record. Now, I don't know how many world titles Triple H has won. I believe he's like at 14 or 13. But in the game, he wins the WWE Championship off of Sheamus. And he says that he is now a 16-time WWE Champion. Now, I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure how many Triple H is at. Like I said, I think he's at like 13 or 14. Now, I know it's just a game, but if you're going to use a story in a game, make sure it's accurate. Because some people might believe Sheamus, some people might believe that Triple H is a 16-time champion. I believe he's at 14 or 15 by now. I'm not 100% sure. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. That's what was so confusing about this. And it was his goal to break Ric Flair's record. He ends up on Smackdown. The Miz is the general manager, and The Miz is just screwing Triple H left and right. He forms his own group called the Misfits, where they're attacking Triple H and all the good guys. And at SummerSlam, it's like a big, I think it's like a fatal 4-way or triple threat. Can't really remember. And Triple H and The Miz, and it was all for the WWE Championship. Triple H and The Miz are the last two in the match, and Triple H ends up beating The Miz in a last man standing fatal 4-way type of stipulation, which I thought was pretty cool. And the final story was by far one of my favorites, where you play as a created superstar that you can design by the name of Jacob Kass. Now, if you tell me that you were not a fan of this Jacob Kass character and the theme song that this guy had, I don't know what is wrong with you. Sure, I understand if people might not have played WWE 12 on the PS3. Sure, if you've got a PS3 and if you don't have the game, buy the game. Trust me, it's great. They bring back an old classic WCW WWE Collision. I freaking loved it. It was so great. It kept me hooked. I wanted to adventure through with Jacob Kass and have him save WWE. Rey Mysterio, you know, that's the thing. And the thing is with these games, they pull swerves on you. They had, like in real life, Rey Mysterio would never do this. In a video game, Rey Mysterio turns heel. He turns heel, joins this WCW group because Jacob Kass's character was trained by Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio turns on him. And he becomes WWE Champion. Rey Mysterio becomes WWE Champion while it has the WCW written across it. Like what traditional WCW. Kevin Nash is running roughshod over WWE. And Triple H comes back. Triple H comes back to help WWE out. To save WWE from Kevin Nash and his whole WCW agenda. And it was great. It was a great story. It was a great story. It was a great storytelling as well. Jacob Kass was fighting for survival. That's what made this story so good. Jacob Kass, a young rookie who was a created superstar by you, the player. And it's up to you to have him save the company. A rookie saving a company. That is what you call great storytelling. That's why I believe WWE 12 is the best game of all time, because they had great storytellings in the season modes. WWE 13, that game was great as well. I'm not going to deny it. It was a great game. I liked it as well. But it didn't top WWE 12 in my opinion. It didn't top WWE 12 in my opinion. WWE 13 just brought back the Attitude Era storylines. Sure, I had no issue with it at all. I actually did I actually kind of liked going back to the old days of the Attitude Era. The years where I didn't really watch a lot of wrestling. And traveling through, you know, what went on through all the great storylines in the Attitude Era. Sure, it was a good experience. It was a good experience. I'm not saying it was bad. It was a good experience for me. You know, I never really watched WWE during the Attitude Era. Like I said, I started watching WWE in 2004. So it was a good experience going through, you know, the olden days and experiencing, you know, that type of stuff. And it was fun. It was a hell of a lot of fun. And that's basically it. That's basically it. Those are all my personal favorite games of all time. Sure, I might have missed out a couple, but the ones that I didn't mention are ones, in my opinion, that I did like them, but I didn't consider putting them on the list. Games like SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 and 2011 and 2009. Some of the games that I didn't mention might not have made the list, and if these games are your favorite games, then that's fair enough. And if that's fair enough, you know what you guys can do? You can comment down below your personal favorite WWE games as well. You can put it down below, your personal favorite WWE games. It can be in any order you want. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up if you did. Like I said, comment down below your personal favorite WWE games. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at pvalentine95. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll talk to you all later.